quick little introduction for those of you who have no idea who I am, which is, I'm assuming most of you. My name is Thomas Eaves. I'm the lead agent of the Eaves Realty Group, and I'm the guy that's going to be talking to you about real estate today. I've been doing this for a third of my life, and I'm not going to tell you how long that is, but just judging by how old I look, you think I've either been in it for a while or not very long. So let me go ahead and share the slideshow here. I did put the link to this slideshow in the chat, and I've also put a link to the information about brokerage services. That is a form that I am required by law to give you. So we'll go through one quick little bit of that later on in the presentation here, but I want to jump right into it. We're introverts. Hopefully, you're all at home enjoying your pizza. It was the best idea that I had. So hopefully it was something that y'all that y'all enjoyed and actually did. So this is Introvert's Guide to Owning Your Galaxy, or owning your galaxy, owning your sanctuary. The whole idea behind this is, they say anywhere between a quarter to a third of Americans classify themselves as introverts. And introverts tend not to like to go out into public, into big crowds where there are lots of noises. They probably won't call and schedule a one-on-one consultation with a real estate agent because that would involve calling people. And so we were like, we should probably come up with something to cater to these people, given that it's such a large segment of the population. I know it's me, right? Don't call me. Robert called me this morning and found out that my voicemail was full. It's been full since 2008, okay? And I'm never going to delete any because then people will leave me messages. I can't encourage that. So that's why we put this together, and hopefully it's enjoyable for y'all. So let's just jump right into it. Why would anyone do this? And you're all sitting there going like, yeah, we were really hoping you were going to tell us. That's the whole reason we showed up. Pretty uncomfortable. So I'll tell you, but I'd like to start by telling you, whenever I got into real estate, I had not purchased a house yet. So it was real weird. I was selling houses, but I didn't have one. And I thought that the reason people wanted to buy houses was so that you could either paint or get a dog. I was like, that's it. I was like, I live in a rent house, and the walls are brown, and I'd like to paint them, but I can't because I'm a tenant, and my landlord won't let me. And so I was like, people buy houses so they can paint, and I really wanted a dog. And the landlord's like, yeah, no pets. And I was like, oh shoot. So if I want to get a dog and if I want to paint, I've got to own a house. And I did buy a house. But what I learned after a few years of living there is the reason people buy houses, well, there's a whole bunch of different reasons, but I'll tell you the reason that I buy it, that I'm such a big believer in owning real estate now. It is the fastest and easiest way to become wealthy. And I'm going to give you a very specific example around that instead of just giving you a bumper sticker statement. Okay. So whenever I purchased my house in 2013, I think it was, if you would calculate it, if you just took my monthly mortgage payment and you divided it by the amount of days in a month, you would find that I was spending about $44 a day to live in my house. This is an interesting perspective. No one talks about this. I was spending $44 a day to live in my house. If you would have calculated the amount of money that I made after I sold that house, after I lived in it for 6 years, what you would find is that while I was spending $44 a day to live in that house, I was making $67 a day to live in that house. And if you subtractionist, I went to public school in Corpus Christi, so this isn't, but what I did was I subtracted 67 from 44, and I was making $23 a day to live in that house. So think about that for a second. I was making $23 a day to live comfortably and happily in my house. The reason that's important is because that compounds pretty good over the years. So after 6 years, I had netted just over $150,000. That's so after I sold the house for what it was worth 6 years later and paid off my existing mortgage and paid all of my closing costs, and the money that I had sitting in the bank was a little bit over $150K. And that was an awesome down payment on the resort that I have the privilege of living in today. So that wouldn't have happened if I'd continued renting the house that I couldn't paint or have a dog in. Right. So I bought under a very specific pretense, and it ended up being a completely different benefit. So there's a whole bunch of benefits purchasing a house. That's why I think you should buy a house. And it's why I think you should get in sooner than later. And we can argue about that all you want. But if you want my answer for why would you do this, that's my answer. So let's talk about the market. Everybody wants to talk about the market, so let's get it right out of the way. We're going to talk about the interest rates, and then we'll talk about inventory. Markets are defined by four things, right? So it's the interest rate, it's inventory, it's the average price, and then competition. How many other people are trying to buy what you're trying to buy? So let's address each of these one by one before we get into the real estate sales process. Okay. Here's the interest rates over the last 3 years. Oh my God, it's happening. So people look at this, even mortgage lenders who haven't been in for too long, they look at this and they think the world is ending or the world has ended. And we all need to go and start, I don't know, selling Bitcoin or doing something different because, man, it's rough. It's rough out there. Those people lack something called perspective. Okay. Here's the perspective. So if you were actually to average all of these numbers out from, I think that's 1968 over there on the left, through now, you'd come up with 7.82%. That'd be the average interest rate. And so anytime someone tells you like, oh man, you can't buy a house right now, the interest rates are super high, you can proudly proclaim to them, actually, they're average. Now, whenever interest rates go from where they were in the low twos up into the high to mid sevens, right? It does absolutely affect the buyer's ability to afford a house. It affects what we call affordability, right? So I'm not gonna pretend that it doesn't. Okay. However, here's the perspective. Here's the tough love everybody needs. You're gonna end up paying for it now or later. Right? Because what's going to happen is real estate, due to the law of scarcity, continues to increase in value over time. The land we currently have here in America is the land that we have. They're not making any more of it. And so as a result, as it becomes more scarce, it becomes more expensive. So the price of real estate is going to go up between now and forever. You can count on it. We can prove it. We've seen it. It's happening. Okay. So you're either going to pay now in the form of an interest rate that can be refinanced, recasted later when and if it comes down. Okay. Or you can wait until the prices get higher and get your 5-6% interest rate down the line. I don't think it's going back to 3 or 4. I don't think so. I'll have a professional talk to you about it later. He's here, but wave, Robert. So we all know it's that's the there we go. So so there it is. The interest rates are the interest rates. Do you want to be a homeowner or not? That's the point. So let's continue and let's talk about inventory. For the last few years, we haven't had any of that. We haven't had any of that. This is so this is just the North Texas area, and look, from 2021 to 2022, we were up 82.3% in inventory. Okay, here in 2023, we're about flat with that. So we've still only got about 3 months of inventory, which is still not a lot. And yet we've got 3 times more inventory than we had a few years ago. So you want a selection of houses to buy? We have it. We have more of it than we've had in the last couple of years. Okay. Let's talk about price. Everybody wants to talk about price. And you're probably looking at these numbers up here and you're going, Thomas, these aren't prices at all. No. What these numbers are these are the percentage of the asking price that sellers are receiving whenever buyers are purchasing their houses, right? So the over here in the red, this is October of 2021, October of 2022, October of 2023. These are the year to date. So January 1st through now is here, January 1st through now in 2022, and January 1st through December 6th, 7th, whatever it is, in 2021. So what you can see here is this number's come down. So what that means is that what a seller is listing their house for, they're getting 95% of it. Okay. So I don't know how loudly I need to scream this into the microphone. Houses are 5% off. There's a sale. You guys would sprint to DSW for this, okay? But we tell everybody in real estate houses are 5% off, and you go, yeah, but the interest rates. Okay, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about all of that in perspective here in a moment. There's the price. Let's talk about competition. The way that I adjudicate, there's a few different metrics for it, but the way that I adjudicate whether competition is a lot, a little, flat, is the duration on market. How many days is a house sitting on the market before it goes into contract? Okay. And what you can see is we're currently sitting this month at 45 days. On the year, we're at 47 on average. Houses, I got to tell you, there was a market a few years ago where they were sitting on the market for a weekend. Okay. They'd put it on a Thursday or a Friday. By Sunday, it was gone. Okay. So for the first time, we have real estate listings 3 times more than we've had in some time, and they're sitting on the market for long enough for you to go and see it and make a reasonable offer on it, and maybe even earn yourself some concessions from the sellers. It's the first time in like a decade that it's happened. And it's really, really cool. And it's really exciting. So I don't know how to communicate any louder. There's a sale on real estate. It really is happening. So let's talk about the perspective there. Here's the 4 things that we judge a real estate market on. It's the interest rates, the inventory, the prices, and the competition. The market we were just in about 18 months ago, the interest rates were really good. And we had no inventory. The prices were incredibly inflated, sometimes 20% year over year. And there was a ton of competition. You were competing against 30, 50 other offers on every house you offered on. And I don't say any of those numbers as an exaggeration. That's all what happened. We lived through it. Now it has flipped. Now the interest rates are not as favorable. Money is more expensive to borrow. And yet we have inventory, prices are down, and you've got less competition. So the market that everyone's waiting on, where all 4 of these things are green check marks, that market is economically infeasible. It's not possible, right? If we get the interest rates down to, say, 2.5% tomorrow, you're not the only one who's going to know about it. Everyone's going to know about it. You're going to have competition. The prices are going to get inflated. There's not going to be any inventory. We're going to be back to square one. Okay. So the point I'm trying to give you, let's go back to perspective, is that we're finally in a market where we have the opportunity to save some money. So I think you should. That's my opinion. Biased? Sure. It's my opinion. So what do we do now? You're back to that, like, stop asking us these questions. You should tell us. We don't know. Well, I don't know what to do. Step 1, you should schedule a buyer consultation with a real estate professional. I'd like for it to be with one of us, but that's my bias coming out. But you should schedule a buyer consultation, meet with a real estate agent, and talk to them about your options, okay? Because you think you know what you want until you show up and we started asking you some questions you didn't think about, and you're like, oh, well, God, I have no idea. So schedule your consultation. We'll talk about your desired specs in a home. Yes, we want to know how many bedrooms and bathrooms and what the house is made out of, how many stories you want, and how big of a yard do you want, and you need a fence for your dog. Yeah, we'll cover all that, right? We're interviewing you while you interview us, right? You need to interview us to make sure that we're the right people for the job, but we're also interviewing you to make sure that we can actually give you what you want. If you come in and say, I'd like a 2-story A-frame by the beach, I'm going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? So that might be a situation where maybe I don't take you on as a client, right? So it's got to be a symbiotic mutual relationship there. Finally, this one's real important. If you click on that link, the very first one that I posted in the chat, it pretty clearly lays this out. You don't have a real estate agent until you've hired one, okay? Let me just put that into perspective. If you call your friend to show you a house, or you call the sign, or you call a number in the newspaper or the yellow pages, am I dating myself here? What's going to happen is, if that person does not have a signed agreement with you that you have hired them to represent you in a real estate transaction, that real estate agent represents, guess who? The seller. Could you imagine being accused of murder and calling up the plaintiff's attorney? That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. So my recommendation would be to hire your own real estate agent, and you haven't hired them until it's a contract, right? So at that buyer consultation, oh my God, there'll be something to sign. And that thing that you're signing, by the way, will say something to the effect of, hey, your real estate professional is going to do a ton of bullet points for you, and you have one responsibility to them. Are you ready? Here's the responsibility you have. Don't cheat on them. So as long as you can nail that one obligation, you should feel comfortable signing that representation agreement. Okay, let's talk about step 2. It's the money. How the hell are we going to pay for this? There's a whole bunch of different options out there. The government wants you to buy a house, by the way. I'd like to let you know that. There's a lot of federal loan programs out there. There are conventional loans. There are FHA. That's through the Department of Housing and Urban Development loans. A lot of first-time home buyers use those. I'm not a professional on them, but I'll have someone talk to you in a second who is. FHA 203K loans, these are real interesting. They kind of went out of style for a while, but I've seen a few more of them recently. An FHA 203K is where you can buy a house that's not perfect and roll the costs of renovation into your loan. So real interesting loan. USDA loans, if you buy in a rural area, you can buy with 0% down. You can play that back if you want to. 0% down, okay? There's also VA loans. If you're part of the VA, you've got your DD 214, then you can get a VA loan. That's 0% down. TSHAC, I'm not sure if TSHAC's still doing what TSHAC does, but that's the Texas State Affordable Housing C. And they offer a grant program. So I'll have a professional talk to you about that. Finally, just ask your mortgage lender. Ask your mortgage lender. There may be a loan program you've never heard of, and you could go out there and research on the interwebs, and click on all of the ads, right, for all the people that are trying to sell you something, or you can just ask a professional. Which one do you think I'd recommend? Finally, that means you should go and get pre-qualified. You should go and get pre-qualified. That means go and have a conversation with a mortgage professional. I have one that I recommend. I'm going to talk to you about him just a second. Okay. That's coming. It's happening. Robert's chomping at the bit. So what are the benefits of getting this pre-qualification letter? Well, one, we will show you houses. The heavy implication there that you should be reading into is if you don't get pre-qualified, we will not show you houses. We don't displace sellers from their houses for a buyer that might not be qualified to purchase a house. Okay, so step 1, get your pre-qualification so that we can show you properties. The second benefit of this is that you know what you can afford, right? I can't tell you how many times as a young real estate agent, I got people calling me about the $350,000 house only to get their pre-approval letter and find out they were approved for $87,000. Okay. It's happened several times. It's very uncomfortable. And it's a real struggle to go from a $350,000 house to an $87,000 one. That one doesn't have a roof. So people like those. People like having them. Finally, you can act swiftly when needed. What that means is when that dream home comes on the market, when you see it on your favorite website, Zillow.com, which I'm going to talk to you about here in a second, and you want to go get it, you're just like, it's just that I belong there. It's my house. I want to go get it. Well, you can go get it if you're pre-qualified. And if you're not, it's going to be a minute. Okay. So without further ado, and ladies, let's make sure that we spotlight Robert on this. We're going to talk to Robert, aka Lender Dad. If you want to know how to pronounce that last name, it's Smith.
There you go.
Smith. So Robert, Lender Dad with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Robert, what's going on in the mortgage world?
Well, interest rates are starting to come down again, as you've seen. I mean, we did go up over 8% for a little while. Now they're back down under 7. So supposedly going to continue to do so. And a lot of the experts are predicting the Fed will start cutting rates in March. We'll see if that happens, though. Those same people said they would do that this year, and it didn't happen. So,
yeah, who do you think is more accurate in forecasting, meteorologist or the experts around mortgage interest rates?
Probably mortgage interest rates, unless
Really?
it's somewhere in Texas. And the reason why it's been a little off because the Fed has been controlling that right now. They've been artificially trying to move the interest rates. So They got them way, way, way artificially low to get the economy stimulated by people buying houses and refinancing, and then they've taken too long to correct that. So basically, the reason why you're probably not going to see interest rates go down in the twos or threes again is because they drove them there on purpose. And what they did is they were buying the mortgage-backed securities and the treasuries, which control the rates on mortgages. And it would be like if you were going to buy Apple stock and the government came out and said, hey, we're going to buy $30 million worth of Apple stock every month. What are you going to do? You're going to buy Apple stock. So everyone was buying the mortgage-backed securities and the rates went down low, and then they stopped buying them and started selling them. So that's kind of in a nutshell what happened. But when they do start cutting the short-term rates, it's going to affect everything. Hopefully the stock market will improve and the interest rates will go down. They will go down for sure. It's just when and how quickly.
Yeah. Robert, just in your genuine, honest opinion, is it just a really cruddy time to buy a house?
This is going to be, and this is predicted from the best economists in the United States, that
Uh,
the next 2 years are going to be the best 2 years to buy real estate in a long time. And the reason being, I mean, right now is really the best time because before rates go up. As you saw, houses are selling 5% under value. So you're getting a 5% discount right there. And then appreciation is projected to be 8% over next year. And that's national. So how many years since 1942 have you thought the price of homes have gone down out of that 60 plus years? 6 years.
yeah.
And one was in 1990, they went down 1%, and then the other five were 2007 through 2011.
Yep.
So they're not going down any. Another thing why people are buying houses, there's 72 million millennials all in the prime home buying range. And that's data straight from the government.
Yeah.
So
Between
you're gonna have a
34 and
lot.
37 is the primary home buying age, and the millennials are turning that right now.
Right now.
And we don't have enough houses for them, we've noticed.
No, it's limited inventory. So once people start buying and they see the rates that go down, everyone's going to be buying
That's
at
why the
once. It's going to
prices
be
have stayed where they've stayed.
exactly because people are, no one's selling. And then when one does come on the market, people are bidding against each other again.
Well, Robert, what do you say to people who say, well, you're just saying that because you're in this business that you just want my money? Because people
No,
say it to
I'm
me all the time.
trying to help you gain wealth because real estate is 75% of all the wealth created in America. So buy now when the rates are down. They might be up, you can refinance. To give you an example, on a $450,000 house, if the home prices appreciate 8%, you're looking at about $36,000 in equity that you're going to leave on the table if you wait a year to buy, not to mention the amount that you're paying down the loan in that time period. So if you buy now and refinance when the rates drop, you'll actually be about $197 a month lower in monthly payment if they go down 2.25% than you would be if you waited for them to drop and then buy.
To those of you watching, we'll put that in layman's terms for you.
Yes.
Robert's a genius, and sometimes it makes him real hard to we don't know what he's talking, but he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, right? You believe him? I believe him. By the way, Robert was
Sure.
my personal mortgage lender on the two homes that I've owned. He did my parents' loans, did my grandparents' loans. I think he's done some refis for. I mean, just so you know, it's not. I didn't find him on the street and drag him in. I mean, he was on the street, but I knew who he was, right? What? So, okay, one more question for you, Robert. Is there? I listed some loan programs
Yes.
over here. Is there something? One, is there something about these loan programs that we're not talking about? Or is there a loan program that I'm not talking about that I just don't know about?
No, you pretty much brought them up. The main loans are the conventional, the FHA, USDA, VA. However, there are a lot of down payment assistance programs. So if people are short on cash right now, get in the house with down payment assistance and let your equity grow. Um, as we mentioned earlier, when rates go down, you can always refinance, and then your equity is going to be higher when you refinance to get lower mortgage insurance and get keep equity going. Now with the FHA 203K loan, that is a rehabilitation loan, like you mentioned. So if you find a house that needs work, you can get all the work done and include that in the mortgage. We also have a conventional loan, renovation loan, to do the same thing.
Wow. What would be
So
the what
right,
would be the benefit of that one over the FHA 203K?
You can go higher, more work to be put in there. You can do a swimming pool on a conventional loan if you wanted to add a pool to your house and include it into
Make sure
the,
y'all are listening to that. We're
yeah,
apparently getting swimming pools on conventional rehabilitation loans now.
if you can renovate it correct. And we'll use the value of the house after the repairs are done, so that helps out.
I know I said I only had one more question, but now I have two. One is, are you ever surprised whenever you're talking to first-time home buyers on a week-to-week basis? Are you ever surprised by how little they know is actually available to them?
I yes, every time almost.
What do you think's
So
causing that? Because I mean, we're in a world where there's no shortage of information.
I think people just don't do any research and they listen to their friends who don't know what they're talking about. Honestly, I mean, right now you can do a conventional loan with as little as 3% down, and almost 50% of people think you have to put 20% down. So with the down payment assistance grants, you can get your down payment covered. And right now, since it's a buyer's market, you can get the seller to pay closing costs. So I've had some people that got into a house, got down payment assistance, got the seller to pay closing costs, and got in for very little money. I've had people get their earnest money back at closing. So
Yeah,
when the market gets hot again and there's a lot of buyers overbidding, you're not going to get any seller contributions. So you're going to have a little bit more money saved up.
yeah, and I really do hope that people hear that message and know that it's true and know that it's not an attempt to swindle. I mean, what I try to explain to people is like, look, we sold houses in 2008, and we sold houses in
Mhm.
2011, and we sold houses in 2020, and we're selling houses now. I, it's not a desperate plea from us. It's just like here's what we've seen and here's what we're forecasting, and we keep being right about it. And people keep telling us like, yeah, but someone told me that it's a good idea to wait, and that feels more comfortable. So I think we'll do that.
Right.
So
And you're paying rent right now, which means you're paying a mortgage. You're just not paying your own mortgage. So you're paying the landlord's mortgage. So you're
yeah,
spending money every month on housing. You might as well have it going to an asset that's appreciating. So if you have $2,000 a month in rent, that's $24,000 a year. After 10 years, you spent $240,000 and you don't have anything to show for it.
yeah.
And
Well,
on
that's why we always
average,
tell people that the interest rate on your rental is 100%.
exactly. And on average, in the last 62 years, home prices, this is national average, is they've gone up 3.8% per year. So where else can you gain that kind of money? You know, you're not gonna, well, right now you can get it in money market accounts, but you're not
Yeah.
going to have the big investment growing at that. You're going to have however much money you have deposited in the bank.
Christina, you have a hand raised.
Yes, we have a question for Robert. Are
Sure.
Yes.
down payment assistance programs only for low to middle income people? If not, what are some examples?
Some examples would be, depending on the county. So all the big counties around here, Dallas, Tarrant, Collin, you can make up to, give or take, $127,000 annually. And that could be if both spouses make more than that, then we can only put one spouse on the loan and get that lower. If you have second job income, we don't have to count that. We may not have to count bonus or overtime income to keep you underneath that limit so you can get to those down payment loans.
Out of curiosity, you mentioned all the DFW counties. Do you happen to know if like Harris County, Brazoria County down in Houston are the same way? I assume they would be.
They're close, yeah. This the more population, then the higher the income limit's going to be. When you start getting in rural areas, the income gets lower. And we could
I-
send you a chart on or guide you to the website to type in what county you're in, and it'll tell you how much you can make.
Send us the website, Robert. Make yourself useful at some point. You know what I mean?
It is, if you see on this slide right here, TSH TSHAC,
Yeah.
Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation, you can
Yeah.
go to tshac.com, type that in, and you can type in however many people you have in your family, what county you're going to be in, and it'll let you know exactly how much the income limit is.
Perfect. I think
Great
we beat
program.
that dead horse. I think Robert will stick around for the next 15 minutes in case we have any questions at the end. There will be some time, but I want to get through the rest of the material. So I'm
Yes.
gonna jump ahead here. Thank you, Robert. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Always have. 10 years and running. Okay. After this consultation and after you've been pre-qualified, we are going to input your needs, your budget, the specs of the house that you mentioned, all into the most powerful real estate platform on the face of the planet, Zillow. I'm just kidding. The multiple listing service. Okay. Don't stop going here, y'all. Look, I just want to give you my, this is broadcasting live on Facebook in front of a ton of people. And I gotta let y'all know it's true. This website here is the purpose is real estate pornography. Okay, that's what it's for. That's what it's for. If you want to go and look at real sexy houses, this is the website. It's real cool. You should do that. Whenever you want actual real estate information that's accurate and not simply a website that's designed to mine for your data and sell it to the highest bidder, you should talk to a real estate agent. We're going to put your information in the multiple listing service. This is the platform we, as real estate agents, put our inventory on when we're trying to sell real estate. And what it does is it advertises out to other real estate agents. And by the way, 89% of transactions in North America year over year are between a buyer's agent and a listing agent. Okay, so that is the benefit of us putting your details in here. It's accurate, it's up to date, it's very well regulated. So we'll set you up on our MLS platform, okay, and we'll send you a list of properties that that match your very, very specific and detailed needs. Here's what to stop doing, okay? I don't think I need to keep beating this dead horse, but stop using Zillow unless you're just looking at real estate pornography. That's cool. What you do in your own home is none of my business, okay? But Realtor.com, just so you know, isn't owned by realtors. It hasn't been owned by realtors in 10 years. And the people that brokered that deal are in prison. Okay. So no, you didn't do me any favors by using Realtor.com. Okay. Stop calling on yard signs. Remember that reference that I made earlier about the fact that you're literally calling the plaintiff's attorney? Doing that. Get your own representation. Okay. Stop going to builders without your real estate agent. Oh, but Thomas, we just love walking around a model home. Okay. I understand, but that really, really polite builder rep who has all the answers to all the questions and has the miraculous payment that you didn't think was possible and all the right documents to sign, that person's very nice. And some builders are better than others, but at the end of the day, that person works for the builder. And the person that pays their check is the builder. Okay. I've got some builder partners out there who I love and adore, and I would trust them with my client, but you should let us vet them first, okay? And at least let us look over the contract, okay? So stop going without them, and stop going to open houses. Look, when you have a hired buyer's agent to help you find a home, okay, that is like having a limo pull up at your front door, okay? We're going to take you on private luxury showings, okay? Open houses are like you being like, yeah, but I found this pogo stick in the trash, and that's how I'm going to get there. It's like, you don't need the pogo stick. Just get in the limo. Just get in the limo, okay? So these things, I know they're fun. You've seen them on HGTV. I don't recommend doing them. Use your real estate agent. This is how showings go. So you can use the MLS portal that we set you up on, not Zillow, and you can heart things, and you can trash things, and you can light bulb things, and that will really help us as your real estate agent to know, oh, this is what they're interested in. This is the area they're looking at. It helps us narrow those down for you. And then once you're ready to schedule a showing, you should send that to us in an email or a text. And I specifically say that because I would like a paper trail of what you sent me. If you call me and say, I'm looking to see 174 house that I can't pronounce the street name of, we're going to end up, I'm going to accidentally end up showing you a house in Massachusetts. Okay. And I'm not licensed there. So, so just send it in an email or text. Okay. We will request up to 5 showings. Thomas, you're only going to show me 5 houses? Yeah. You know why? Because we went to a consultation and you told me exactly what you wanted. And I agreed to go and find you exactly what you wanted. If I show you 5 houses of exactly what you want and you're not really cool with any of them, well, either I didn't do my job very well in the buyer consultation or you lied. Could also be that you didn't know what you wanted until you saw it, okay? So if we show you 5 houses and you go, well, I'm just not real excited about them, well, then maybe we need to go back and do the buyer consultation a second time. And I don't say that as a punishment. I just say, like, really, like, we don't need to keep wasting our time and going and spinning our wheels. If we need to go back and go back to the drawing board and figure out what we want, let's go do that. Okay. It saves your time and it saves my time. It's a win-win. Okay. During showings, be on time. Okay. Remember, it's not just us. We made a seller leave their house. Okay. They packed up all the dogs and the kids and got in the minivan and they're sitting down at the end of the block. So let's show up on time. If it's possible not to bring young kids, that's cool. Don't bring your Doberman to the appointment. Heather and I both have those, and they're idiots. Beautiful dogs, idiots, complete idiots. Don't recommend bringing them to the showing. People do it all the time. So you think that there's, like, I'm just making stuff up. There's a reason it's in the slideshow. All right. And then finally, stop bringing your family. Okay. Your family's going to love your new house. They're going to love you no matter what. A lot of parents who bought their house back in 1984 like to hijack the process and go, I don't know, this house has an awful lot of doorknobs. And there's just no room for it. It's your process and you want to be in control of your home buying process. It's a special process and you should be in the driver's seat. Okay. So you can get opinions from mom and dad. I don't recommend bringing them on your showings. Okay. It will ruin the experience for you. Okay. Finally, at the conclusion of the showings, we're going to need your feedback. Okay, the listing agent who we displaced their clients are going to ask us for feedback on the properties. So you need to be open to telling us what you thought about that. We're on your team, right? I didn't build the house. I don't live there. So don't go off and hide in the bedroom and go, have you see that this house doesn't have any closet space? You have to come and you have to tell us so that we know what you didn't like. We can give the feedback, and now we can go and taper your search to the next thing. Okay. And if one of those 5 houses that we showed you are going to work for you, then we'll start advising you on good offers. Okay. So that's how showings go. After we've shown, you're ready to make an offer. Here's the 3 things that can happen when you make an offer. The seller can either accept that offer, they can reject it, or they can counteroffer it. Now, by the way, the middle one, reject, that didn't happen very often. Doesn't happen very often. They either accept it or more, I would say 5% of the times they just accept it. They send you back a signed contract. The other 95% of the time they counteroffer it, meaning they say, hey, we're happy with A, B, C, and D, but can you change E and F, right? So, hey, we really liked your close date and we liked your financing options and your close date, but we didn't love the asking price. Can you increase it by $10,000? Okay. Technically, that is a rejection, but we'll accept this. We call it a counteroffer. And that's normally what happens. There's usually a little bit of back and forth. I tend to write offers to be signed, not counteroffered. So I get a lot of people who come up to me and they're just like, okay, you think we can offer them $30,000 low? I'm like, well, it's been on for 7.5 minutes. So no, I don't. But that's the advice you pay me for. Okay. So once your offer gets accepted, right? Everyone signed the contract on the dotted line and we're ready to close on this house. What's going to happen next is we're going to ask you for some money. I'm not going to ask you for some money. You don't. This is not the point of the process at which I get paid. So there's 3 big payments that happen whenever you get a contract accepted on a property. One of them is called earnest money. Earnest money means what it is. It's your earnest intent to purchase the property. You can think of it as your skin in the game. I've heard it called a deposit. This is you saying to the seller, look at these monies. Look how serious I am about buying your house. Okay. Normally, this amount of money is it doesn't have to be. There's no rule. There's no law around it. Okay. It could be 0. No one's going to take your offer very seriously at $0. But normally it's about 1%. So let's just imagine you're buying a $400,000 house. That's a $4,000 check. Okay. This check is reimbursable. Meaning that as long as you do what you say you're going to do and you show up on the day of closing and you sign, you will get that money back. Okay. So that's a reimbursable. So it's not like you write it and that money's just gone. That comes back to you at closing as long as you satisfy the contract. And then you also would pay option money. Option money is the money that you pay the seller for the option to terminate the contract. Okay. And the way this works is you'll pay them $250 for 3 days. Okay. And what that means is that starting tomorrow, today's day 0, starting tomorrow, you have 3 days to back out of the contract for any reasons in exchange for $250. That's just an example. Okay. Now, well, Thomas, what do you mean I could back out of the contract? You like due to inspection items or due to no, anything. Your fortune teller could have told you, like, hey, I don't know if you know, but Mercury's in retrograde. It's not a good time to be buying right now. Your dog could get sick that morning and you'd be like, ooh, that's a bad omen. Okay. You could see 666 on the bank sign while going down the street, like whatever it is. You can back out of the contract. Okay. So you pay for that. Now, it doesn't have to be 3 days. It could be 5 days. It could be 7 days. That number will have to go up. You'll have to pay the seller more money for the risk of them taking their house off the market for that amount of time. Okay. During that time, you will also have the opportunity to perform your inspections. Okay. That inspection fee, I've never seen it cheaper than $350. So let's talk a little bit about the inspection. An inspection is not required. I would say it's done on 99% of transactions. I highly, I want to make sure that the Texas Real Estate Commission hears me saying this. I highly recommend that you inspect the house. Okay. I'm not trying to sell you a bad house. I'm not trying to cover, what is that called? Pull the wool over your eyes. You should get the house inspected. Okay. I recommend it. You don't have to. I think you should. This can be used as a negotiation tool, by the way. Let's say you offered $400,000 on the house. You find some considerable things wrong with it, not things that are going to prevent you from getting your mortgage, but things that are serious enough to cost you a lot of money down the line. Let's use that to negotiate the contracts and get you some credits or get you a price reduction, right? Not all inspectors are built the same. Look, the Texas Real Estate Commission requires that I give you at least 3 names. There's one at the top that I recommend the most. Okay. There's a real cheap one, and there's a reason that one's cheap. And there's one that you're going to have to pay for. You really want an inspector that's going to do you 2 great services. One is they're going to comb through that house, and they're going to make sure that absolutely everything is looked at, is inspected, right? The second thing they're going to do for you is not scare the hell out of you. And that's a great segue into the 4th bullet point, which is that everything is deficient. Whenever you receive an inspection report, you're going to see 4 little columns on the left-hand side, and they're going to say this item in the house was inspected, not present, or deficient. Notice that there's no option for it was perfect and amazing, and there's no problems with it, okay? Everything is deficient. By the way, even if the house was completed, new construction, yesterday, the house is deficient. The doorknob squeaks, the hinges are creaky, the baseboard, isn't caulked correctly. Absolutely everything in that, the doors don't have that little thing behind them. It's deficient. Everything's deficient. Okay. So the reason I'm telling you that is because you're going to receive that inspection report and you're going to go, oh my God, the house needs to be bulldozed. The house does not, in most cases, need to be. I have seen a couple. Most of these houses do not need to be bulldozed. Okay. There are some deferred maintenance issues that could use some caulk or a nail gun. But here's what we're actually looking for whenever we go do an inspection. Don't panic. It's okay. We want you to have a good house. What if something's wrong with the house? Okay. Here's what we're looking for. Structural issues like the roof and the foundation, the stuff that makes sure the house continues to stand and protect you from the elements. Those are real important. And by the way, if those aren't in good working order, you're not going to get a mortgage loan. They will make sure that you don't. They want to make sure that the asset that the government is giving you hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase is in good shape, good enough shape, right? To be worth what you're paying for it. Okay, so we want to make sure the roof and the foundation are in good shape. Mechanical. In Texas, you need an HVAC system. Okay. That's somewhat of a subjective opinion, but I don't think I'd have anyone that would disagree with me. It's you need an HVAC system that is functional. You also need a water heater. Okay. So we'll look at those issues. We'll look at the mechanical functions of the house. Those are important. Safety issues. Asbestos, lead paint, gas leaks, radon gas. These things are important, right? This is a safety issue. We want you to be able to live safely in your home. I'm just a horrible person, aren't I? Just a sleazy salesperson. I'm over here telling you should buy a safe house, right? And then finally, hazards. Termites, by the way, that's a big deal for VA loans. Not only termites, but conducive conditions for termites. Flood risk. If the house is in a floodplain, we want you to know about that, and it's something that could potentially affect your contract. Fire risk. If the house has got a bunch of insulation laying on top of open wires, spliced wires on top of gas lines. If you've got an arcing issue in your electrical panel. These are all things that are important and that we should have addressed in some way. These are important. I'm telling you, these are what are important. Here's what's not important. The color of the walls, the condition of the carpet, things that are not up to code. By the way, I don't think in 10 years I've ever been in a house that was up to code. Have you guys? Have you guys ever been? And I've never been in a house that was up to code. New construction, they're not up to code. Code, by the way, is what the local government has decided is important that day. And they change the code, I don't know, hourly. But I used to work pretty closely with a code enforcement officer, and it was hilarious, some of the stuff they come up with. Because a house is not up to code does not mean that it's going to fall to the ground. It just means that it's not up to code. Okay. So if you see it's not up to code, that's not the end of the world. It's okay. And by the way, no one's checking. No one's going to come and take your, say, hey, you can't live here anymore because we checked the codes and you don't have enough wires. Like it's not going to happen. There's no big deal. The house is probably not going to be up to code. Finally, things that aren't broken. And you're probably sitting there like, well, yeah, Thomas, duh. Comes up all the time where an inspector will go, hey, this water heater's 10 years old. So, probably at the end of its life. And the buyer goes, oh, you think you can get the seller to buy us a new water heater? It's like, does it make hot water? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, then we're probably not going to get a new water heater from the seller then. So if it's not broken, we're probably not going to get it fixed. Okay. So hopefully none of this is super controversial. All right. Here's how we negotiate. Once we decide what we think is important on this inspection report, we can negotiate in 4 different ways. One is we can ask the seller to repair those items that we're that we want taken care of. This is my least favorite option. And the reason it's my least favorite option is because if you were purchasing a house that you weren't going to live in a few weeks, would you hire, just the cream of the crop, the Rolex of repairmen to come in and take care of your property? Or would you find your neighbor who has the tool to do it and get him to do it and create an invoice for you? You'd hire the neighbor. I don't care how ethical you are. You would hire the neighbor, okay? So I don't want janky repairs done on the house that I want to live in with my family. So this is not my favorite. You could do it. I'm not telling you not to. It's my least favorite option. The second option is that you can ask for a price reduction, right? I also don't love this idea. Let's say you identify $20,000 worth of repair that needs to be done. And so instead of offering $400,000, now you offer $380,000. Perfect. You will receive that $20,000 after you've lived in the property for 30 years plus interest. So it just doesn't make any sense. There's no more money in your pocket by doing a price reduction. The third and my favorite option is to ask for credits. Okay. We can literally ask the seller to contribute credits at the closing table to us for inspection items. But by the way, they don't even have to be any inspection items. You can ask for credits right now. Okay. And some sellers in this market where we've got inventory sitting on the market for longer than they would prefer to will do that for you. So this will help offset your closing costs and your down payment. So finally, here's the fourth option, and people do this more often than any of the other ones. Okay. We ask for stuff. And here's what that looks like. Hey, your sprinkler heads have got some issues. The sprinkler heads are faulty. And you really care a lot about the sprinkler heads. You're like, hey, the sprinkler heads are bad, but I tell you what, if you leave that fridge, we'll call it even. Okay, so that's fair. You're allowed to do it. Doesn't even have to. I negotiated a goat 7 years ago on a property in Crum. Robert, I think you may have been on that. There was a goat. There was a Icelandic sheep, I think it was. Anyway, the point is, all right, I've negotiated a goat. So you can ask for stuff too. Your final hurdles here are the appraisal and the clear to close. The appraisal is where the government will send, the lender will send a person out to the house before closing to make sure it's worth what you offered on it. Okay. And I would say that 95% of the time, this is not an issue. Robert, you think is that accurate or is that going up? Roughly, you're muted. It's not normally an issue.
No, it's yeah, you're probably about accurate on that.
All right. Yeah. So only about 5% of the time does the appraiser come back and go, you offered too much money on this. And by the way, if that does happen, you have some options, right? You can bring extra cash to closing. That's the buyer's least favorite option. But sometimes it has to happen if you've got it and if you want the house bad enough. We can get the seller to come down to the appraised price, right? That's our favorite option. More often than not, we kind of meet in the middle somewhere. The buyer says, well, I'll bring half and you bring the price down by half, and then we'll call it a day. Okay. Don't forget, houses are discount. They're 5% off. The final one is the clear to close. And the clear to close is where the lender, after taking your blood sample and your hair test and, running your information through the FBI, like and the IRS and everything else, like has finally decided that you deserve a house. Now, I don't want to glaze over this because it's a pretty important part. This is the part. So a lot of you probably watched the Dolly Parton halftime show at the Cowboys game the other day. And right before that show, there was a commercial for Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage, where their slogan is push button, get mortgage. It really is that easy. It's not that easy. Those companies, those marketing firms that have lenders somewhere, they're really good at being awesome and communicative all the way through the process. And then we get to this part, this clear to close part, this real important part at the end after we've already done all the work. And they go, ooh, we forgot to make sure that the buyers had jobs. So the loan is not clear to close. And we can't, sorry. And you have got a U-Haul in front of your house and you've spent a ton of money and the sellers have already moved out and like the world, we were about to have a whole new life and now our lives are over. Okay. So how do I recommend not getting into this situation? Here's what I recommend. Work with the lender that your real estate agent recommends. Because we know who closes real estate transactions, right? And let me tell you, we've got real estate agents, we've got mortgage lenders coming out of our ears. Okay. Like hundreds per week. Everyone wants to take us out for coffee and buy us this, that, and the other thing and wine and dine us. And yet we work with like 2 or 3 because they close loans. Okay. So my recommendation is don't push button get mortgage. Work with the mortgage lender. And Trek would hate that I was saying this, by the way. They'd be like, no, you have to provide them with options. Look, candidly, you can use whoever you want to. But if you do use whoever you want to, you might not have a real estate agent. And I love you. All right. So congratulations. Your sanctuary has been acquired. So that is our presentation. And now we will open up the floor for questions for either myself or Robert. And you can add, we're introverts, right? So if you want to add them in the chat, you're free to do that. We negotiated sheep and Pilot Point. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And so we'll give it 45 seconds. Wow. Thanks, Heather. 45 seconds. And then we'll let you go and enjoy your pizza. We were almost dead on the time.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Okay. So a lot of the things you mentioned, the services and support you can provide, that would require signing an agreement, right? That initial step that you talked about.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions? Going once.